of the top 5 new features available in Cormant-CS version 13 and 13.1. Of course, there's many new features and enhancements available within these 2 releases, but I wanted to spend a couple of minutes reviewing what I believe to be the top 5 most interesting ones that our users are going to use on a daily basis. Let's kick it off. Take a look at number 1. Number 1, available in version 13, is something we're calling component insights. You can see the component insights displayed here on the screenshots over on the right as different threshold alerts that are viewable at each one of the component levels. You can see this one here is attached to the data center level. What these are offering is a quick visual feedback of what various alert capacities are. So, previously you might have received an alert for something, or you might want to be looking at the capacity of any kind of metric at a rack or a row or a device and look at available power, space, or cooling. Previous you would have to find the attributes and say, okay, the power max is this and the current power actual is that, and therefore the power available would be this. But to see that now represented graphically based on the configurations you choose. So let's take a quick look at how we're going to configure that type of thing within Cormant-CS. You can see here I brought Cormant-CS version 13.1 up, and we've got our asset home screen here, and I'm looking at some of my health cards that I've configured. If I go over to the asset tree and we start to browse around here as we would, and I come down to this particular building and down to the floor, you can see no component insights are visible at this level of the tree. We get down to the data center level and there are some component insights available. These are available because I've configured them, and they're configured on a template by template basis. So you can see this is a data center level template, and against the data center level template, I've configured the following component insights. So these are thresholds that are configured in a separate area that we'll look at. Those thresholds are then added to the templates and are visible here. As I come further down the tree, down to the zone level, I've got zone level insights, right? So just looking at different measures of capacity available at different levels of the tree. Down to the row level, I've got some assigned for row capacities. And of course at the rack level for some rack capacities. You notice at the rack level here, I've diverted away from using just the metered graphic and included a couple of the thermometer graphics, the temperature graphics as well. Again, this is fully configurable for everybody based on what kind of data you'd like to present. And then as I go even down to individual component levels, if I had some sort of query running against my servers and I had some server health information I wanted to portray, I can do that as well here. So these are, like I said, are all configured at the data center level, or at the template level, I should say. So if I come back and let's look at this data center one, for instance, here, and we come and take a look at the way this template is configured, you see here now what is loaded. This is also admin configuration, gets you to the same place. On the templates tab and the template components sub tab, here's our template tree, and we're looking at that data center template that we were just anchored on. You can see across the top the tabs you're used to seeing, but now this threshold tab is available. And it's on the threshold tab where we can add thresholds, and we can also sort the order in which they're going to appear, and a couple of other configurations as well. So if I click on edit here, you can see this is in line with what we see here as far as the component insights that are available here are what has been added to the thresholds tab of the template configuration for the template of the component we're looking at. You can see the order that they're displayed in can be edited by dragging and dropping the pancakes over here. You can even give them special display names that are separate from the actual attribute threshold name. You can see by default they just inherit the threshold kind of names, so the name of the threshold becomes the display name, but you could always change that, right? And have some additional information available as part of those display names. The other configuration available to you here is the type of graphic that's going to be used. And you can see I've chosen a meter graphic for a number of all of these really. But if we go down and we look at the rack one we were looking at, so if I come down and look at racks and cabinets, my 42RU rack, you can see here the thresholds that have been applied. And then indeed the graphics that have been applied. So you can choose from different graphics that you have available to you within the system. And these graphics can actually be edited on the graphics tab over here to expand your selection of available graphics. So in order to get these component insights to show up on your asset tree, you need to make sure that the component that you're looking at, that template, has associated with it some thresholds. And that is done at the template level on the thresholds tab. Now you might complete this one and say, oh gee, that's great. I'd like all of my racks to have the same configuration, and I don't want to recreate it one by one. So we now offer the ability to have you link these to other templates. So I could select all of these. I could click on link to templates, and I could simply now apply it to the other templates where I'd like to have this type of performance available to me, right? If I want to put all my chatties. You get a warning. Are you sure you want to do this? And you can say, remember this, I'm going to do it a lot, or just go ahead and acknowledge it. But now you can see that that configuration has been pasted across multiple templates, right? Which is super helpful. As I go to these other templates, we can see they've been added here. Now I've added it to a bunch of other ones that may or may not make sense, but you can go through and ensure that that all comes together. Very good. And that's how we get component insights to show up here. If you're looking at a component and you don't see any component insights up here, well, the reason for that is that this template doesn't have any component thresholds associated with the template. So it's a matter of where you want to add them and where you want to see them. Very good. Let's look at new feature number 2. This is something that is an enhancement to calculated attributes. So in previous releases, you were able to create user-defined attributes that were numeric attributes that would do calculations. They would look at the sum of child components, or the sum of immediate childs, or the min or the max of your child components, and it'll give you a number based on that. So we've taken that a step further now to allow you to be able to do calculated attributes based on user-defined formulas. And this adds a whole level of power to what we're able to do with attributes. Any kind of data calculation you want to do with an attribute is now possible, whether that attribute is a child, or at the same level as the component you want to do the calculation, or even the value lies in a parent component of where you're at on the tree and want to do the calculation for. So a lot of flexibility has been added here. The classic example that I like to use and that I've retrofitted into our existing database is a way of calculating power plate derated values for our assets. This is something I've done for a number of customers over the years, and always had to kind of come through the template tree and be clever about how we added things. But we'd always have to make sure when a new template got added that we repeated those clever actions to get the derated power plate numbers available and accurate. What I've implemented now with these calculated attributes is a way of defining this on a more global way on the template tree, and having these values automatically calculate for us quite easily. So let's go through the way this configuration is put together here in Cormant-CS. You see the outcome of it listed here, right? So I've got a R750 in this cabinet, and as we look at the power plate information, we can see that there is a power plate associated with that of 2400 watts. There's a power plate derating factor attribute that I've created and set it at 60% or 0.60. These two are calculated against each other, so the derating factor is multiplied by the power plate, and that's what produces for us the power plate derated value over here. And of course it exists on all my components. Here's my DL380 1400 watt power plate, 0.60 on the factor, gives us 840 watts of derated power plate. I then take all those derated power plates and I can aggregate them up to the rack level. And at the rack level, I can have a rack power derated value, which is the aggregate of all my derated power plates. So now I can look at something like my derated value beside my actual value beside my full plated value, and get some context around how all this stuff is working together. So how do we go ahead and create this attribute or any other attributes like it, right? And that's going to be done within our admin and configuration area over on our attributes tab. And here we've got our component attributes and my big tree of attributes. Yours will look different, but somewhat similar. Let's go ahead and filter this tree a little bit just by the word derated. And now we've got some of the attributes I'd like to target on. So the very first one that we needed to create was something called the derating factor, right? So the power plate derating factor I created, and then I added it to all my standard server and storage and network equipment templates. This is a simple attribute. There's nothing special about this. This is just a numeric attribute that I set to a length of 10. Percentage-wise, units. I haven't even put, but let's go ahead and put a percentage sign, because that's really what this is. This is a derating factor. It's really 60% or 70% or whatever that's going to be. So I could put a unit in there if I wanted. Go ahead and save that, right? So now I've got my power plate derating factor, and I've got another attribute called power plate. So how do I get what my power plate derated is? And this is the attribute that we use that's taking advantage of our new calculated attribute functionality. So at the top here, it's a data attribute. So it's a numeric attribute like you're used to. The type is set to calculated, no different from other calculated attributes. We can set number of characters and our unit of measure, of course, and these other items. Down here in the calculation details, this area is new. So previously you were given these options here to calculate sum of all children, max and average. But now you've got another option called advanced custom formulas. And the advanced custom formula allow you to go ahead and create an actual formula and put it right into the box here and have the value of that attribute recalculated every X number of minutes based on this formula to give you a value. Now, what does this formula mean? Well, you're able to define what the items are going to be that are used as part of your calculation, and you can give those items a label. So I labeled one plate and I labeled one derate, and the plate key, right, that label refers to which attribute? Well, it actually refers to the power plate attribute. On what component? Well, the same component that I'm doing the calculation on, or I could look for a parent value, but in this case it's the same component, right? Because the power plate belongs to the server. And now I'm going to create a derated power plate. So that also, these all belong at the same level of the tree, at that component level. So that's why these origins are set to component. So the plate is the power plate, and the derate is the power plate derating factor attribute that we've applied, right? So if we just come quickly back over to what that asset was, right? So we've got power plate, we've got a power plate derating factor. To get this power plate derated, it's a function of the plate times the derate. So you can see I put that in a kind of simple, straightforward formula, right? Plate times derate based on these keys. You can even test it down here, right? So if I had a sample little quick, if I had a 100 on my plate and my derating factor was 0.45, and I do a quick test here, the value I get is 0.45. Makes sense, right? Because the plate times the derated. And that's how you're able to get any kind of calculation into the system. I appreciate this is a rather simplistic one, but I think one that everybody has thought of trying to implement at one time, or thought it would be nice to have, but the hurdles to getting that implemented and maintained over time were maybe not worth it. But now this is a simple retrofit fix you can put into your build and get these kind of power plate derated values. Once you have them at the component levels, then of course you can aggregate them up to like the rack power. So here's like the rack power derated attribute, right? So this is the total of all the power, the derated plate values within the rack, and you can see it's a simple calculated attribute that is looking at the sum of all children for the power plate derated value, and that's it. Very simple to do. Now that I know what the sum of all my derated is, and I know what the rack's power max is, I can come up with a rack power derated attribute. And here again, I've used my custom formulas to do this. So this is a calculated attribute. with an advanced formula, and I've just taken a slightly different approach to the keys down here. I've called 1A and 1B. So it's A minus B is the formula, where A is equal to the power max and B is equal to the rack power derated value. So your power max minus your aggregate equals your rack power available, or derated available. So just another kind of application of how we can do this. Look, there's really endless. We've given you some little examples over here of the different formats you can use, even the temperature for conversion of Fahrenheit to Celsius. And for your reference, there's a documentation link here. So be sure to click on that and take a quick look at this. This is a nice overall, and we'll keep this up to date as we add additional functions and arguments and values and operators and all sorts of stuff, right? But this is a nice kind of summary of the available syntaxes, some of the values you can play with, and the operators that are currently supported in functions within this current release. And we're going to be adding more additional interesting stuff to this, because as you think you're starting to see, this could be very, very powerful in generating values for us and generating data based on other existing data, right? And being able to use that over time. All right, item number 3, global login announcements. So this release of Cormant-CS includes a new feature that's going to allow you to configure a pop-up login screen when people log into the application. So this goes back to a number of requests we've had over the years in regards to can we have like a notification when people log in that says authorized users only, or any kind of other announcements you want to make when people log in. So this has now been added in version 13.1. It includes both side of the screen, as you can see here, and then the preview side of the screen. Then, as you can see within this example, we support some markdown language so that you're able to, create a more interesting. It's not just pure text, right? We'll support hyperlinks and image embedding and stuff like that. So let's take a look at where that's configured in Cormant-CS. And you're going to find that within the admin and system settings area that we've got loaded on screen. This is the area on the general tab where you're doing things like setting some global action channels, or your backup paths, or your other items like that. So this is what the screen looks like initially. You can choose to enable this announcement feature or not, and you can show it when users log in or not. So here, let's put this in edit mode. Once we have it in edit mode, you can see now both the preview side, or the formatting side here, the editing side, and the preview side over on the right. You have the option to toggle this on or off, whether you want to enable this feature, and then whether you want to have it when users log in or not. So there's a potential to enable this feature to create these global announcements, but then not have it presented to users when they log in. In cases like that, or if you've already logged in and you've cleared the announcement, but you'd like to see it again, you can recall the announcements by clicking on your username and choosing the announcement feature here. So that's a kind of on-demand way of bringing that up for all your users. And you can see within the editor here, we've added some items, some basic linking, and then you see over on the right the way it looks, right? So we've got some heading stuff here. If you're unfamiliar with necessarily all the features that are, we've got a tool menu up at the top here, some hot buttons that you can use to implement some of the formatting features. But also, as a reference, there's a little help icon over here, okay, everyone? And if you click on that, it lists all the markdown cheat sheet codes for you. So if you wanted to edit this to include some interesting things like some image links, or some ordered lists, or whatever, formatting and stuff like that. So this is a very handy little cheat sheet that we've included under the little question mark help button over here. We've also got the ability to see the write-only screen, or the read-only screen, or the preview screen, right? Good. So let's see how this looks, right? So you can see I've put in this is what I'm expecting to see right over here on the left, right? So if we go ahead, changes. If we go over here now and log out of the application, oh, here's another new feature in 13.1, just so everyone's aware. It's not on the list of my top 5 things, but I think it's really helpful. Something I've wanted for a long time is this little show me my password that I've entered button, right? Because I'm the classic user who's got fat fingers, and if I put a password in and go log in and I got a bad password, my question to myself is always, did I use the wrong password or did I type it wrong? And at least with this feature now, if I'm in a secure area, I can go ahead and say, ah, look at that, I typed it wrong, I'm a fool, right? Okay, let's go ahead and log in. So here you see the way the announcement screen is presented. All the user needs to do to get by it is either click the X up here or click the close button down here and it'll go away. But we've embedded it with some live links within the system, like, hey everyone, remember there's help files for Cormant-CS. Here's the 13.1 what's new kind of link here, right? You click on it, you can go directly back over to that kind of area. Oh, my announcement screen's gone. Let's bring it back. There we go. And look, users can explore other things here. I'm happy to share, this basic layout with anybody who would like it. Just fire me an email and I'll send it over to you. But of course, I expect everyone's going to have their own use for this type of thing and want to implement their own type of screen. And I'm very curious to see what everybody comes up with. So if you've created an announcement screen you'd like to share, take a screenshot of it and send it over to me. It'll help us get an idea of how people are using this and what other additional features we can add on. This is an example of an enhancement request we got from our customer base for a feature that they would like to have. So, these enhancement requests that we get and the conversations we have together about new features and things you'd like are really important to us. And that kind of feedback turns into enhancements in every release that we do. So we're really pleased with that. All right, next item. Number 4, global notifications. Kind of similar to the announcements, where the announcements were more detailed and had that splash screen kind of show up. The global notifications are more about those little messages you see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. So if you were to make a save, or if there was an error or something happened in the application, you always see these little feedback messages in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And depending on the nature of what you did, they might be green, or they might be blue, or they might be red if it's an error or something like that's happened, as you can see as an example here. So a couple of the things we've added within the system now is the ability to actually send out one of these announcements to all your users who are online. This can be useful in situations where you want to make sure everybody who's currently online acknowledges a message that's being sent out, something like that, right? You can configure that within the admin and system settings area, just like our announcements were. But right above that, we've got the global notifications area. So this is just a simple, a little bit more straightforward, right? It's either on or it's off, and you can decide what text to put in there, right? And once you decide what that is, you just go ahead and click on save, and you can see this announcement is going to be stuck across. And this is going to show up across the screen of all users, right? And as they go ahead and turn it off, if they want to see a list of all the previous announcements or the previous notifications that they had down there, they're now under this new icon. So this little icon here beside your username is new. And if you pull it down, you can see the previous announcements that have been made, of the little feedbacks that you were getting in the bottom right-hand corner. So, I mean, a lot of times you see it and you just automatically clear it, and then you think to yourself, oh, wait, did that tell me something important that I actually wanted to know? Well, let's go back and look at what that was, and now you can actually do that here. Some of the items are even hyperlinked if it's a historical item like that. Good. Next item on our list, fifth and final item for me, is something we're calling attribute ordering, right? So a lot of our customers for a long time have talked about the way the attributes are arranged within the details tab, the attribute groups and the individual attributes. Previously, and up until this release of 13.1, these items in the attribute groups were arranged via alphanumeric sorting, with the exception of the general group always being on top. And now with our component insights group, those being kind of defaulted to the top. But you now have the ability, and look, I've seen a lot of customers over the years do interesting workarounds to renaming their attribute groups, alpha, like, you know, with leading numbers and stuff like that, in order to get them to sort in the order that they desire. And this, you know, workaround was okay, but we wanted to give a more proper functionality to allow people to present the data to their users in the way their users want to consume the data. You may have noticed throughout my little presentation here, as I was looking at, let's go back to an asset here. And as I was browsing this tree, you might have noticed, you know, general being the next group, but then power and then DC. So I've already, as you can see, I've strayed from the previous alphanumeric default sorting, right? Because this is no longer sorted alphanumerically. I've got asset validation way down here, and I've got my general up here, my power. So these attribute groups here are now presented in the order that you want to define them, right? And that's defined within user management now. So not only can we define the order in which the attribute groups are going to be presented, we can define this on a role-by-role basis. So each role might care about different attribute groups more. Each role might say, look, I'm a power guy. I only care about power. I don't care about your asset information. Great. You can have a different sorting for those types of groups, right? And that sorting is put together here on the permissions tab. And if I put this into edit mode, you now notice that the attribute groups have an additional feature of the stacked pancakes here, which imply you can change this order around, right? So if I wanted to take general and drop it down below racks for the administrator role, I can do that, right? So I've gone ahead and done that. General's all the way down here now. If I come back and do a little refresh on this, well, look, general's moved all the way down to here now, below racks. So you really can define exactly, you know, the order of the attribute groups on a role-by-role basis. Let's say you've gone now ahead and set it up the way you want it for your administrator role, and you have to now, let's say you want to have that same approach taken by all the other roles. So you don't have to go to every single role and redo the action anymore. You can come up to the role that you think is correct, and we've got a feature now to copy to other roles. And if you click on this, you can choose what it is you'd like to copy, whether it's permissions or the ordering of the attribute groups. So I really don't want to take my administrative permissions and copy it to all the other roles, but I do want them to have the same ordering. So I could set all these to no. And leave that set to yes. And say, I want all my other roles to have the same attribute sorting now. Or maybe I don't, right? It's completely configurable. But this allows you to push that global configuration out very, very quickly. All right. That concludes Brad's top 5 new features for version 13 and 13.0. I hope you got something out of this video. And if you need a hand in configuring some of these new features and making them work for you, please reach out to support or reach out to me directly. I'd love to hear from you and give you a hand making sure this all comes together nicely. Thank you for watching.